As a reminder, even though we haven't had any actual callers from Austin, mainly because the lines are all full of people from out of town, if you're in the Austin area, after the program's over, we go to dinner at Threadgill's, which I didn't announce during the announcements.
Oh, naughty, naughty.
So I'm going to make sure I get it in a couple of times.
Yeah, we'll be there. Come down. We got a big group of folks here that help out behind the scenes, and they're as passionate as we are.
We're on till 6 o'clock. We're down there at Threadgill's around 6:30. The address is up on your screen. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to come to this or any of our other events. You don't have to be a member to attend. You don't have to be a card-carrying atheist. As long as you're not coming down to preach, proselytize, or provoke, you're welcome. We have lots of good conversation stuff. And one thing that I wanted to bring up, as suggested by the folks in the studio, we appreciate all the calls, really, and I appreciate all the email. We can't promise to respond to all the email, but we do read all of it, and we're passing the burden around as to who's going to answer what. For those of you who are watching the show from out of town, the simple fact of the matter is that most of you who are out of town watching the show probably agree with us on a great many things, if not nearly everything. And we appreciate the calls, we appreciate the kudos, please don't stop them. We do, however, realize that most of you probably really like the calls from theists or people who disagree with us on something. And so in order to promote that, what I'd like to do is we have 3 phone lines. I'll keep 2 of them open for out-of-town calls. If you call in and the screener asks you where you're calling from, unless you're calling to actually argue about something where you disagree, if you're a theist from out of town, that's fine. Let's try and keep at least one line open for Austin and people who want to call in and explain what their beliefs are and why they think we've missed something or overlooked something or got it wrong or made an error in our logic or we're just not seeing a particularly clear piece of evidence. I find that interesting, and I think most of you will find it interesting if they manage to spin me up. But we want to get back to spin in Don's sense.
There's two little topics I want to hit definitely before we end the show. And one is this marriage thing, the same-sex marriage thing, and all the spin that's there. Just to give a little catalog of spin, and then Christmas, because there's been a couple things in the news lately that are just too silly not to bring up. Okay. So same-sex marriage has been a big thing recently. California Proposition 8 was a big news thing, and we actually talked about the politics behind it. We've actually done shows on the equality issue and these sorts of things. But from the spin standpoint, you know, if you put together all the arguments against same-sex marriage, that you find a lot of spin there. And in particular, I think we see a lot of suppression of the opposing evidence, and I think that's just another way to do spin. So there's this claim that traditional marriage is a good thing and should be done that way, but they never seem to mention that traditional marriage tended to mean that man owned his wife. The man owned his wife, and often owned multiple wives. Yes, and that she had the inability to own property. And so those things, for some reason, seem to get left by the wayside, that the women were property and they didn't have the right to vote or do other things.
The whole thing is kind of spin, really, because there is no such thing as traditional marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Marriage, like so many other things, has changed what it meant.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the history of marriage, it's changed a lot, and changed in a lot of interesting ways. It has tended to move towards more equality.
Unless you're living on a fundamental LDS compound, in which case your marriage has not really changed a lot.
Right, but you're a teenager, so
betting 13-year-olds.
You're not watching the show. You're not allowed to watch TV. Okay, there's a claim of religious sacrament of marriage, but they never mention that marriage wasn't a sacrament by the Catholic Church until the 1200s. So we're back to the tradition thing. They've traditionally, for the first 1,200 years of the Catholic Church, it wasn't a sacrament. The early church even spoke out against marriage because it detracted from the spirituality of the husband or the man for his love of God. And if you claim that marriage is a religious sacrament, well, atheists marry. No one seems to be complaining about atheists getting married. So what sense does that make? There's this claim that the superiority of religious marriage, that God blesses these marriages, but unfortunately the divorce rate is higher for for believers than for non-believers, and that's been documented. And God apparently is unable to stop this. So I don't see what the advantage of religious weddings are in this case. If your purpose is to keep the weddings last longer, or the marriage last longer, there's a claim that gays are promiscuous and evil. But you know, in this California thing, we saw couples that had been together 30, 40, 50 years come out of the woodwork wanting to get married, and it's like, oh, you know, these little old ladies, you're not going to allow them to get married. You're so evil. Anyway, a lot of so-called research on gays has been pseudoscience funded by the religious right, and if you want to look up a guy by the name of Paul Cameron, it's all propaganda. There's a claim that marriage is about procreation, but many gays are parents. That seems to be left by the wayside, and they want to provide for their children. They want to provide an environment for their children, and they want to have families and these sorts of things.
And by the way, many married couples don't have kids. Are they saying
Absolutely.
that, you know, infertile couples shouldn't be allowed to marry?
Right, they don't.
It's
they
not
don't,
about procreation.
They don't say that, and they don't support quotas or nullification of marriage if you don't have children.
We're sorry, you guys were unsuccessful in your copulation efforts during the first 3 years of your marriage, so we are going to annul it and farm you out to a different group.
Right, right. So the irony here is that children of gays are known to be well-adjusted. There's been a lot of studies on that, but most of the suffering that those kids have to go through are because of religious bigotry. So, you know, if you don't want these kids to suffer, then stop harming them. So there's lots of
I mean, that is so crazy. It's like, and I've heard that before. It reminds me of the interracial couple thing. And I remember hearing people say, and there
were religious arguments against that at the time.
Oh yes,
too.
but I swear that this did not strike me at the time, and really probably didn't have as much impact until you just said this. It was like, well, I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it, but think about the kids and what they're going to have to go through. I mean, really?
Is that your best argument?
I'd rather that they just, I mean, they probably shouldn't do it. Think about what they're doing to those kids. They're the kids of interracial
the kids
couples.
are going to suffer so
Hey,
much.
guess what? If you'd say, no, it's a good thing, and we encourage them to have kids so that we can all eventually one day be a beautiful tan, then their kids aren't going to suffer from bigotry because you're not there to be a bigot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Plus, I wouldn't look so pale on TV. If we'd have started this a long time ago, we'd all be a gorgeous,
This is not
tropical,
the path for you getting a tan. I just don't see it.
We'd all be.
I just don't get it.
Wouldn't you rather the whole world be this gorgeous tropical? I mean, I like variety.
Oh, mixed babies are wonderful. They're great. Love it.
You take a look. Never mind.
Okay.
Continue
you
with
want
your
to hit
spin.
Christmas, or you want to go back to some callers?
Let's hit Christmas, and
Let's
then
hit Christmas.
we'll finish with Christmas and take
Okay,
calls.
there's a lot to say about Christmas. In fact, we just listened to a lecture about Christmas and all the history of it and all the propaganda and all the ossified mythology and all this stuff. So I don't want to hit that. I want to talk a little bit about Bill O'Reilly.
Oh, gosh.
And the spin machine. Well, if you want spin, go to Fox News, go to
the no spin zone to get your spin.
Yeah. Go to WorldNet Daily. That's a great source. In fact, I have to share this. Today, just for entertainment, I typed in Wingnut Daily, which is what atheists call WorldNet Daily on the Google, and the very first thing that came up was WorldNet Daily. I love it. Anyway, Bill O'Reilly. So he's a Fox News commentator, and he's been a big flogger of this war on Christmas, and this was a really big thing in 2005. And at the time, he says it's all part of a secular progressive agenda to get Christianity and spirituality and Judaism out of the public square. And then he added, because you look at what happened in Western Europe and Canada, if you can get the religion out, you can pass any secular progressive programs like legalization of narcotics, euthanasia, abortion at will, gay marriage, because the objection to those things is religious-based usually.
You know, congratulations. Some of us are actually in favor of most, if not all, of those things. And I'd like to know exactly why. Why are you opposed to them? I mean, if it is just a religious thing, then clearly you should just abstain for religious reasons. If your God doesn't want you to, have an abortion or have sex with somebody of the same sex, then don't do it.
Yeah, no one's stopping you. So one of the big flashpoints is whether or not people were allowed or should or could say Merry Christmas, right? So a lot of stores at the time were encouraging their clerks and things to just say Happy Holidays because that was the sort of least offensive thing, and this was a big anathema, big problem for Bill O'Reilly, who thought that this was some sort of secular agenda and some evil thing. So what's really going on here is that Bill O'Reilly and a lot of other blowhards are making money off of this, stirring people up. So
they are the ones who have invented a war on Christmas.
Yeah.
The war on Christmas exists only in their mind and
their
in their
mythology.
Shows. And it's, for example, I do know some people who are offended when you say Merry Christmas. And to them, as atheists or Jews or whatever, anybody who's not a Christian who doesn't celebrate Christmas, there are some who are offended if you say Merry Christmas. I'm not offended. I think it's a little amusing. It's kind of like telling me happy birthday on your birthday. What makes you think I'm celebrating this? It's an assumption. Do you run around telling people happy birthday?
Well, most people, when they say it, it's meant as a pleasantry.
Right, and I'm not too bothered by it.
Pleasantries are great.
I'm not really bothered by it. My girlfriend's a huge Christmas fan, candy cane and crazy clothes, and my family are proponents of Christmas, and I'm celebrating Christmas. I'm not celebrating anything religious or Christian. I'm celebrating Christmas from a secular perspective, and I don't know that I necessarily need to come up with a different name, whether it be, what was the suggestion this morning? Well, in any case, Festivus, whatever suggestion. It doesn't bother me. But from a practical standpoint, here are my objections. I think it's wrong for the owners of the store to mandate that their employees say Merry Christmas instead of something else. Because now, that employee might not be a celebrator of Christmas. I think it's wrong to say that this is what you will say. I also think it's wrong to say that there's something intrinsically wrong with saying something more generic, like Happy Holidays, because that is the path to inclusion. That is, whatever you're celebrating, we hope you enjoy it. We have legitimate feelings of goodwill towards you. We want you to enjoy this season, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, the winter solstice, Festivus, whatever. We just want to, we're in a good mood because of what we're celebrating, and we'd like you to be in a good mood for whatever you're celebrating. And if you're not celebrating anything, we just want to be in a good mood too. What the hell is wrong with that? What is so evil about Happy Holidays? It's only a problem in the mind of these people who are convinced that we live in a Christian nation based on Christian rules, which is horseshit from the beginning, and then who have to have everything they do be about their religion. Bill O'Reilly recently went off on the Freedom from Religion Foundation because they put up...
That's what I wanted to talk about next.
We'll go there.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of what they said, but I'm with it.
Okay. In the capital of Washington State, which is Olympia, there was a nativity scene put up, and some atheists said, "Hey, we got this church-state separation thing. You really should have a more inclusive thing, and we'd like to put up a sign." And to their credit, the state of Washington allowed that, and the sign was from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which is a group that I admire and I support. Their sign said, "At this season of the winter solstice, may reason prevail. There are no gods, no devils, no angels, no heaven or hell. There is only our natural world. Religion is a myth and superstition that hardens the hearts and enslaves minds." So that was the sign they put up. And this, of course, got Bill O'Reilly pretty riled up. Incidentally, I'll mention that I don't want to go off on this tangent too much, but there's a blog post about this sign and whether that's a good message or a bad message on the Atheist Experience blog.
Yeah, Martin posted that.
And that's a very good topic, but that's not really what I think we want to talk about today. But I do want to talk about the spin.
I happen to agree with him. There's the blog.
Okay. There's some spin associated with this that just cannot go unmentioned, and that is Bill O'Reilly's comment that he says, "Now this is political correctness gone mad. There is no reason whatsoever to allow an anti-religious sign to be posted alongside a Christmas display. It is inappropriate and out of context," he says.
I want to hit the word here because we had a discussion about this on Nonprofits yesterday, And what he just said is there is no reason to allow. Yes, there is. It's called the Constitution. That is the reason to allow. Everything else you said after that is irrelevant. When you say there's no reason to allow, you have gone against the Constitution, period. You're done. You are irrelevant.
Yep, he's wrong. He goes on to say, this is the part I just love. He goes on to say that Christmas is a federal holiday honoring a religious man, Jesus. This is too wonderful. We also honor Dr. Martin Luther King in this country. Does that mean we have to put up a sign next to his likeness to appease those who may not like his religious affiliation? Of course not. Okay, so let's analyze this a little bit. Bill O'Reilly is claiming that we're honoring a guy because he was religious, a man because he was religious.
I didn't know that Santa Claus was that religious.
Right. There's that. No, he's talking about Jesus, of course.
Oh.
So he's claiming that Jesus is not a god, and that he's not born of a virgin. That he was just delusional when he was making claims that he was God and all this divine stuff. He thought he was divine, but he made all these ridiculous promises that he was going to come back from the dead, and billions of people were taken up by this scam. And that's what we're celebrating for Christmas. And if, that would be a secular holiday, is to celebrate a scam. So if Bill O'Reilly wants to celebrate Christmas as that, then I'm all for it. Anyway, it's just too funny.
It's nuts. But the thing that Bill did, in addition to just flat out ignoring the Constitution and pretending like that there's no reason to allow this, is that at the end he gave out the number for the governor of Oregon, so that his viewers, his rabid, ignorant, troglodyte, follow-along viewers could call the governor to complain. Well, the governor made him a statement, and I thought she did brilliantly by basically saying, hey, I don't happen to agree with the message, but I do agree that they have a First Amendment right to post it. End of story. Bye. That was basically what she said. And you know what? Even if I disagreed with her on other things, that would almost be enough just to get my vote right off the bat. Anybody who's willing to stand up for First Amendment rights in the face of blowhard morons like Bill O'Reilly deserves a great deal of respect, at least for taking that position, even if we disagree on other things.
Okay, one more little Christmas spin, and then I'll stop for today.
Okay.
I have a lot more stuff in case we run out of callers.
Well, we got about 30 minutes left.
I don't think we have any danger of that.
Yeah.
There was another article. This was an opinion piece done by a commentator in the Wall Street Journal, and by the guy named Daniel Henninger, or Henninger. And the article is called Mad Max and the Meltdown, if you'd like to look for that. And his claim is that our economic collapse is because we're not saying Merry Christmas.
Holy crap.
And he's saying this with a straight face. And it's just so patently absurd. But his argument is basically, well, this meltdown was because of, he says that trusting the public sector to protect us from financial catastrophe is a bad idea. I don't know who else is going to do it, whether it's the Jesus or what. I don't know. He says what's really missing through the subprime mortgage years were the 3 R's: responsibility, restraint, and remorse. And he's sort of arguing that, well, if religion provides these things, and since we're getting rid of religion out of the public sphere,
we should have the 4th R of religion?
Yeah, I guess that's so he's arguing that we're going to fall into moral ruin because we're not saying Merry Christmas, and this is the prime example of it. And this reminds me of, he also blamed Northerners and atheists in particular, which I thought was funny.
I'm surprised you didn't name abortionists and Nazis.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, and lesbians, because that's what Pat Robertson and them did. It was lesbians' fault that 9/11 happened. Yeah.
But this reminds me a lot of when they promoted the Ten Commandments monuments back in the 60s, where we got our monument here at the Capitol. That's another interesting story. The supposed secular argument at the time was that this was going to curb juvenile delinquency.
Yes.
That this would teach moral values, and that there wouldn't be any more juvenile delinquents, or they would have a great moral code.
It's a shame that their argument wasn't that it would keep people from ceasing to say Merry Christmas. We could have killed two birds with one great big stone on the Capitol lawn.
Okay, so call in with your spin. Give us a call.
I have to send out a thank you. I got a card today for, well, I got it actually mid-November, but it got to me today. It says, "Dear Matt, you are not a cosmic accident. You are wonderfully made in the image of a loving God. As per your request, I've been praying for you," and then it's signed with something that I can't quite read, and there's no return address. So thanks. You can pray for me, and I'll think for you.
So you weren't a cosmic accident because your parents decided to have you, right?
Yes, I was not a cosmic accident. I've never claimed I was a cosmic accident. I was the convergence of a series of unlikely events that were evidently inevitable.
So
as I'm sitting here today.
You were an example of family planning.
Yeah. Or at least the failure to not plan to have a family.
I guess, something like that.
Something. It could be either one. Yeah. I haven't asked, but
I think I was an oops baby. But
that's, see? Maybe we can do some investigating there.
I'm a cosmic coincidence of some sort.